Welcome back, guys. Thanks for joining me for another beer review. Apologies for knocking the table there. Right, I've literally just reviewed a Brewdog beer. One from Tesco's, I believe it was. I'm not sure if this one has come from Tesco's, actually. Let me have a look. And it was Shore Leave, the Amber Ale. I've only seen one review of it. He got a little bit of a telling off from my mate. Yes, this one was from Tesco's, part of 4 for 3. Yeah, and to try and cut a long story short, Brewdog, craft brewery, doing a traditional beer. You want it traditional, don't you? You don't really want it being too crafty for me. I actually thought it was quite good. I quite enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong, no world beater, but a nice, enjoyable sort of traditional beer, as in most traditional sort of beers are. Now, this on the other hand, which is one of their beers again, Brewdog, this is more of their craft side, I'm going to guess. So this is where I expect a different level of Brewdog to kick in. If you're doing traditional stuff, yeah, it's got to be a good traditional beer. Yeah, it didn't wow me, but it was quite, I thought it was quite nice. This one, on the other hand, when you're doing craft stuff, you expect something a little bit more. So let's hope this one delivers. So the beer we are looking at, like I say, it's from Brewdog, picked up from Tesco's as part of a 4 for 3. Let me just double check the price, or what I think it would have been. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, yeah, right. Picked up as part of a 4 for 3 from Tesco's, and this is a can of their Grind Coffee Stout. Absolutely boring can artwork. It wasn't. To be honest, the only thing that might attract some people to this beer is that name on there, because the can is dreadful. It looks really boring. 440ml can, 6%, coming in at £3.50. Or should I say 440ml can, £3.50, coming in at 6%. However, anyway, part of a 4 for 3. I don't think this one was the freebie, so we are going to take a look at this one. Going to bang it in that glass, which should be clean. Might just have a couple of watermarks on the outside. Now, I've not seen any reviews of this. I might have seen one. Thinking about it. But I can't remember it. So we'll get it cracked open, see what we get. Hopefully this one isn't going to shoot its bolt. There's a load of bollocks, isn't it? Brewed by baristas. The coffee might be, but hopefully the beer isn't. So let's get it cracked open. Room temperature. Let's see what we get. It's been out the fridge. I was going to do it yesterday, but when I got home from work, I'll be honest with you, I had 3 pints and a big fat Chinese, and I just didn't want a beer, so I never got around to doing it. So we're doing it on a Sunday, Stout Sunday, so there's a good thing. I thought that looked quite thin as I was pouring it in. It's a beer in a glass, look at that. That is, there is the slightest of reddish hues coming through at the very bottom of the glass, holding it up against daylight. But I'm going to say that is pretty much jet black. We got just about a finger of tan head on top. It's not looking massively inspiring. It looks a little bit thin. It looked a little bit thin when I was pouring it in. It's looking a little bit thin as I swirl it round. But it's all in the taste and the smell and the whole experience. So let's dive in with the nose and see what we get from Brewdog's Grind Coffee Stout. Oh yeah, to be fair, on the nose. I sat here slating Brewdog and the look of the beer and everything, but oh yeah, coffee, a nice rich coffee and a lovely chocolate aroma. Roasty chocolate coffee. That's about it, but it does smell really beautiful. It does smell like a really nice coffee. So let's top her up. I'm going to try and be a bit vigorous. See if we can create any more red. Well, it has, but not really much. So, Brewdog's Grind Coffee Stout, 6%. Cheers. Yeah, it's quite nice. I've got to admit that is quite nice. Body wise, it does. I might be a little bit harsh, but it does feel a tad light. But that's not to say it's bad, but it does feel a tad light. If this was a little bit heavier, it would go to another sort of level. So like I say, a tad light, but the body is still good. Nice mouthfeel to it. Very little, if any, real sort of carbonation, but it doesn't feel flat. The lack of carbonation, in a sense, along with that beautiful coffee flavour, and it tastes like a really nice coffee, gives it a smoothness. I mean, it's almost, when you drink it, because of that lack of carbonation, it almost feels like you are drinking a really high quality smooth coffee, and that comes through as you taste it. Smooth, soft, very drinkable, it's got to be said. On the taste, it's not going to surprise you what I tell you on the taste. For me, to start off with, you get a nice subtle sweetness, chocolate sweetness, with almost it's not like some coffee stouts where you get a big bitter coffee feel. This almost has a sweet coffee feel. So maybe that sweetness, that roasted malt, that chocolatey sweetness that comes through is carrying through with the coffee, because it makes the coffee kind of feel sort of sweet. Give it a sweet edge, I would say, not sweet. It's nowhere near sweet in drinking where you're thinking, oh my god, that's sweet. It has that sweet edge. Roasted coffee, a little bit of sweetness, very little bitterness in there, if I'm honest, for me. The body, like I said before, it's not terrible, but it does feel a little bit light. If that was that bit heavier, this would be a belter for me. I'm thinking to myself, because I've done the shore leave, and amber ale, traditional style beer, you expect this to be more craft. There is that craft beer edge to it, but it also still has, it still drinks almost like a traditional stout. But them little edges, them little extra edges of sweet chocolate, coffee, just separate it from traditional to sort of craft, if you like. There's not so much that you get some stupid mad flavours, but there's enough there just to lift it. I actually think this is really nice. The only sort of bit I'm let down by would be the body, and it's not even shockingly bad. The body is just, if it was that bit more, would elevate this into a great beer, I think that's really enjoyable. This is 2 beers I've had now from Brewdog on the bounce that I've actually enjoyed. Not massive, I wouldn't say massively wowed by the shore leaf, but I do like this one. I'm not going to say massively wowed by it, but I think this is a good solid example of a coffee beer. The one they done Roaster Coaster with Evil Twin Brewing was outstanding. That was another level. And I think if you'd got the body of this to Roaster Coaster, granted Roaster Coaster was 9%, I think if they got the body to that little bit more thicker or heavier, and the fact that Roaster Coaster, if I remember rightly, was a nitro beer, so that probably helped it. If this was a nitro beer, this would be fantastic, I think, because that's a really decent, enjoyable drop. So yeah, Brewdog Grind for me gets a big thumbs up. I think that's well worth trying. Just expect the body to be maybe a tad light. It doesn't kill the beer, but it doesn't help it, and that little bit more would lift it even more. So yeah, give it a go if you want to. I picked that up from Tesco's, £3.50, part of a 4 for 3. If you've had this beer before, let me know what you think. Feel free to comment. Don't be put off by the label. The beer is actually better than the can artwork. If you had this beer before, let me know what you think. Feel free to comment. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you again soon on another one. Cheers.